Good evening and welcome. My name is Taylor Kingman, President of the Board of Trustees for San Angelo ISD. I would like to welcome all of you who are present at tonight's regular board meeting, as well as those who will be watching the recording online or on our public access channel. Today is February 16th. All items on tonight's agenda have been posted as required by state law, and most items have been discussed in our earlier pre-agenda board workshop. As a board, we work to set goals, hear reports from our superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, and personnel items, and to make policy decisions for the district. Please keep in mind that this is a meeting of the board held in public, not a meeting of the public. These proceedings are recorded and will become part of the district's permanent record. To help us maintain a clear recording, please refrain from speaking while others have the floor, and please silence your cell phones. Thank you again for being here and for your support of SASD. We do have a quorum this evening. Mr. Bill Dindal will not be present, and we'll begin with our first item on the agenda, which is our invocation. And Marcy Menchaca, the Executive Director at House of Faith, is going to help us with that tonight.
It's an honor to be here with all of you today. Please pray with me. Lord, we are grateful for SAISD and for every child, every youth, and every family that make up our district. Thank you for our Board of Trustees, our administrators, our principals, our secretaries, our teachers, our aides, our custodians, our maintenance and transportation teams, and the many behind-the-scenes operators that it takes to make each day happen for our school campuses. Thank you for the committed hearts that work hard in each department to make our campuses run efficiently and safely, and ultimately help our school district be a place where we see students grow. Bless this board, Lord, as they meet with deep understanding for all they have to consider for our district. Bless them with wisdom in all areas that will lead to a strong future of education in San Angelo, producing students who thrive in all areas of life. Bless this team with deep unity as they lead and plan for beautiful success in our district. In the mighty name of Jesus, amen.
Thank you. Now we're going to do our pledges to both the United States and Texas. We have some Reagan Elementary students here tonight. We have Kavion Day, Evelyn Sanchez, Kaylin Day, and Jesus Ponce. If y'all would stand up and help us with that, we appreciate it. All right. Next on the agenda is recognitions, but I'm going to take a quick moment of privilege. Over the weekend, we had a student pass away. While personally, our prayers are with her family and all of the people leaning in with love to support and care for all of those impacted. As a board, we ask each of you here tonight to join us in a moment of silence and remembrance. Thank you. Next, we're going to move forward with our recognitions. And Dr. Gomez is going to help us with recognition of Career and Technical Education Month.
Dr. Kingman, Dr. Moran, and members of the board. For our first recognition this evening, it is my great honor and privilege to recognize our district's career and technical education staff, program, teachers, and students. In honor of Career and Technical Education Month, we proudly recognize Mrs. Roxanne Fentress, Director of CTE. Mrs. Fentress, if you would please come forward. Now, Mrs. Fentress is having to stand up here solo because we saved the principals and teachers from having to come up here, but that does mean you're front and center. So come on over, Mrs. Fentress. Thank you for taking that. Additionally, we want to thank our high school principals and all of our CTE teachers and staff members for their outstanding leadership and dedication to our district CTE programs. Their unwavering commitment to providing students with high-quality, hands-on learning experiences has been instrumental in preparing our students for future careers. To the board and to our community who are watching and listening, we hope you've enjoyed our social media posts this month in honor of CTE, where you really see firsthand what opportunities are created for our students and our multiple pathways. Our CTE programs have achieved remarkable milestones, including innovative programming, industry-based certifications, community partnerships, and exceptional student outcomes. So again, Mrs. Fentress, we thank you for your leadership, our high school principals, and our CTE teachers. Congratulations on a job well done. Mrs. Fentress, would you make this circle? I've been asked, the board really wants to shake hands.
Dr. Gomez, are you doing the next one as well?
Yes.
Okay, so the next is recognition of National School Counseling Week.
Yes, I will give all of our audience members that are part of this, you don't get to stay in your chairs. So Mrs. Fentress took that one for CTE, but our counseling members who are here being recognized, if you'd go ahead and begin making your way. All of our staff here for counseling. For this next recognition, we are honored to recognize San Angelo ISD and our school counselors. School counselors play a vital role in the lives of our students as they work to realize their hopes and dreams. Our school counselors are dedicated to creating comprehensive counseling programs that are proactive, responsive, and empower all students by guiding them through times of need and celebrating all the ways our students are smart. First up, we'll have Mrs. Rebecca Klein, if you will please come forward. See, Ms. Fentress, it was not only you. Ms. Klein will also thank me later for that. We'd like to recognize Mrs. Rebecca Klein, our Director of Counseling and Mental Health, for her leadership. So we will first in our recognition start with Three Rivers because we also have some students and families here. So we want to honor their time for joining us. So if we have some students in the audience, if you could begin making your way up here as I begin the next portion of the recognition. Our outstanding SAISD counselors who were honored as Counselor of the Year by the Three Rivers Counseling Association are Mrs. Fontenot from Santa Rita Elementary, if you would please come forward. And Mrs. Kirkendile from Lone Star Middle School for winner of the Middle School Counselor of the Year. We are so very excited to recognize 4 outstanding students who have been honored for their resilience, determination, and academic success. We know that schedules are very busy, and while all of them could not join us this evening, we still want to take the time to recognize these students. 3 students received Student Tribute Awards, recognizing their perseverance and commitment to growth, while 1 student earned a prestigious Three Rivers Counseling Association scholarship. Please help us congratulate our Student Tribute Award honorees, Hadley Hasty of Lincoln Middle School, Comrie Lacey of Central High School. I think I got that first name incorrect. I tried really hard. I got it? You got it. Oh, I tried really hard on that. Okay. And last but certainly not least, Aaron Adams of Lakeview High School. Next, please join us in congratulating our TRCA scholarship recipient, Randall Breyer from Lakeview High School. We are incredibly proud of each of you, the hard work, resilience, and dedication you demonstrate every day. Let's have one final round of applause for these recipients. Y'all will pose for a picture. Okay, next, so if our
stay for one more picture.
Yes, one more. Get mom, that's the most important, always. Every mom is entitled to say that, and father. Okay, so if Ms. Fontenot and Ms. Kirkendall, if y'all will go back and join your counseling team. Students, if y'all come right here to the circle, because the board's going to want to shake your hands, okay? Okay, next, we are so proud to recognize our campuses who received the distinct honor of being awarded the Counselors Reinforcing Excellence for Students in Texas. As if we didn't have enough acronyms, that stands for CREST. It's an award for excellence in counseling. To receive a CREST award, schools must demonstrate a commitment to improving the lives and achievement of students in academic, career, and personal social domains through a comprehensive school counseling program that is innovative and based on campus needs. Please join us in congratulating and thanking our outstanding CREST Award winners. Now, I've been asked to not call y'all all up individually, so you can thank me later, but when I call your campus name, the team members that were able to be here this evening, if you can come up, we'll get photo opportunities first of every campus. But if you won't go back to your seats, if you'll just stand to the side, because at the end, we'll take one big group photo, okay? So first, please join us in congratulating and thanking our outstanding CREST Award winners from the team at Central High School. Thank you. If y'all just stay to the side. Next, please congratulate the team from Lone Star Middle School. When we take the group photo, if there's administrators to these campuses, we would love for you to be in the group photo too. Our counselors work super hard, but they can't do their job without the support of their principals. Next up, the team from Lincoln Middle School. It's okay. Here we go. You want to trade? Here. When you have so many banners, you inadvertently get the wrong one. It's okay. They do, so. Thank you. Our team from Glenmore Elementary. Our team from Lakeview High School. And last but certainly not least, our team from Santa Rita Elementary. If we could come together for one big group photo. It's like school picture day. We know y'all have a lot of experience with school picture day. We'll let you organize one another. If you guys will go around the board, either high five something. I get in trouble if I don't say this. They want to tell you good job. So please let the board thank you. And those in the audience, if you would please join me in another round of applause for our school counselors.
You got multitasking.
All right, next, Ms. Shannon Schwartz is going to help us with Love the Bus Month.
Okay, if we have our transportation folks here, if y'all will go ahead and come up to the middle. Okay. Good evening, Dr. Kingman, Dr. Moran, and members of the board. Tonight, we're proud to recognize several members of our transportation department in honor of Love the Bus Month. Each February, Love the Bus Month celebrates the trusted yellow school bus and the dedicated professionals who ensure students arrive safely at school and return home each day. This national recognition highlights the critical role transportation plays in supporting students' access to education and maintaining safe, reliable school operations. Here in San Angelo ISD, we're deeply grateful for our bus drivers, monitors, and transportation team members who serve our students and families with care, professionalism, and a strong sense of responsibility. Their work often begins before sunrise and continues well beyond the school day, ensuring that students are transported safely and supported every mile of the journey. School buses remain the safest form of transportation in the United States, and that level of safety is made possible because of the dedicated individuals who operate and oversee our transportation systems every day. Today we have with us Lee Livingston, Linda Jones, Walter Anderson, and Diana Alvarado, and we proudly recognize our transportation department and thank them for the essential role they play in keeping our students safe and connected to learning. Their commitment truly makes a difference for our students, families, and community. Please join us in recognizing our transportation department.
All right. Next on our agenda is public comments. We do have individuals signed up to speak this evening. For those speaking tonight, please remember to follow the guidelines you received when you signed in and that were displayed on the screen before the meeting began. Our first speaker is Gretchen Smith, and the topic is Senate Bill 11.
Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Moran, Dr. Gomez. You hear from me a lot because I apparently have a lot of things to say. I'm coming here partially as a teacher at Glen Middle School because when I read the content of this bill, I have questions. The first one is, when is this going to happen? There are 462 minutes in the middle school day. In 26 of those minutes are a passing period, and 30 minutes of those are in lunch, and all of the rest of those minutes are instructional time. There are no minutes that we are in our classroom that are not instructional time. And part of the wording of the bill is that it's not supposed to take away instructional time. And so are we going to take away their ability to have lunch? Are we going to do as Christoffel does and have it before school or after school? Does that mean the bus drivers have to wake up earlier, or does it mean we leave those kids out? What are we going to do when someone comes up with materials that are religious to them that we don't quite agree with? How do we respond that? And as an orchestra director, I'm qualified to wave my arms, count to 4. Am I qualified to say, this is a religious material, this is not? I would also like to point out that on our campus, we have a student-led Jesus Club. It is something that has been approved. It is something that is student-led, and actually 1 year I was the sponsor for it. Because it is student-led, it is within the First Amendment rights of our students. We have House of Faith, we have Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and we have 1 minute of silence every day already built into our day in which children are free to pray. I also speak to you as a religious leader in our community. I am an elder at St. Paul Presbyterian Church, where I served as the director of Christian Ed for 7 years. I'm currently on the pulpit supply rotation as we don't have a pastor. In fact, I preached yesterday. And one of the basic tenets of my belief is that I am supposed to love my neighbor. And I cannot love my neighbor if I don't respect them. And I cannot show them love and respect if I do not allow them a space in which they're not going to have religious beliefs overtly or indirectly pushed upon them. They need a space in which they can be free to learn. Now, there are 10,080 minutes in a week. A student spends 2,310 of them in school, at least during the middle school years. In the 77% of their life that is not spent in the schoolhouse, their parents have the freedom to engage them in whatever religious direction they want to give them. But when they are in my space, to learn the teaks and the things that you have put before us, that is not the space for anybody to tell them what to believe or how to believe. And they still have the freedom to be who they are and believe what they believe.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith.
Thank you.
All right, next we have China Young, again on Senate Bill 11.
Hello, my name is China Young, and I am a Central High School graduate and an occasional substitute for the district. I am here to urge the board to not adopt the policy requiring that every campus in the district provide a period of prayer and reading of the Bible or other religious texts. For one, the district already basically has this policy. They are required to not discriminate against any student who wants to exercise their religious freedom. And now I remember when I was a student here, we were able to organize our various Christian-centered activities like See You at the Pole. We usually did it before morning or in the morning before school started. And from what I can tell, that policy is basically still in place. You can organize those kinds of events before, during, or after as in alignment with also any sporting groups or any other school organizations. So the policy essentially already exists to ensure that these spaces are there and are protected. Aside from religious freedoms, this requirement presented in the bill seems to involve a process of having to distribute and collect consent forms that opt students and faculty into this practice. And the law is very specific about who can be present during these prayer times, restricting it to only those who have opted in. So this kind of implies that there would likely have to be some kind of policy or practice to monitor these spaces to ensure that no student or teacher that did not turn in an opt-in consent form is present, to ensure that the campus is not violating the law. And this honestly just seems like it would place an unreasonable burden on educators and administrators that are kind of already overburdened. And it would increase the chance of even accidentally violating a state law. And I just don't feel like that seems it would be worth the risk. So again, considering the district's policy already exists to provide this space when requested or needed, I believe requiring a daily period of prayer, religious reading, or any other religious-centered practice on every single campus in the district just seems unnecessarily burdensome. So please consider keeping the district policy as it is and voting no to adopt this other policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Young. Next, we have Ms. Angela Bible. Just for clarification, this is also on Senate Bill 11.
Sorry, I'm short. I'm Angela Bible. I teach physics and plant and soil science at Lakeview High School, and I'm speaking on Senate Bill 11. Just to kind of build basically the same, more or less, case as the others that have spoken on this bill, it is overly burdensome on the district, and it would actually reduce and incur a burden on some of the district's current policies that we already have in place. At this current time, as Ms. Smith already enlightened you on, we have a time of silence. The Senate bill states that this could not happen if we enacted Senate Bill 11, because nothing could be mentioned over the announcements or over any loudspeakers. Every single student would have to be opted into that in order for us to be able to have a moment of silence, because that would incorporate prayer in school. It could also not happen during our announcements, because that is during the instructional day. So we would have to have announcements before school, which would be overburdensome as well. Additionally, I feel that if we allowed this opting in process, it allows some manner of entrapment, so to speak. We have certain students, especially in the high school, who are at this point in time beginning to become their own selves. They are opting out of religious beliefs that their parents are a part of. And this is particularly troublesome in homes in which we have abusive situations. So if we have some sort of manipulative, emotional, abusive situation, this would actually allow the school to become an instrument of abuse for these children. So this emotional manipulation we would be that instrument of abuse. And I feel that that would be incredibly troublesome. On top of all of that, as a teacher of science, I am incredibly meticulous in my study, as I am in all of my religious beliefs. I have here 3 different religious texts that are all more or less the same thing. But if I were to open these up, and I do not have time to do so, but if I were to open them up and read the same text, I would get vastly different wording for that exact same text. anybody who were to opt into this and be said leader of this sort of thing might be a very different interpretation for the exact same thing. And I feel that that is on the burden of the parent. I wouldn't want to be that for someone else. I don't have the credentials. I don't want to find somebody credentialed to be even a physics substitute, much less.
Thank you, Mrs. Battle. Appreciate it. All right, next we have Jamal Schumbert, and he's going to talk about Jumbotron advertising space, fifth day virtual option, and application process for committees.
Jamal Schumbert. First, I would like to talk about the Jumbotron. I was looking at the budget and I saw it just fell a little short. I was hoping that we wouldn't give out discounted spaces to people or discounted time to people, that we could use that space to probably cover the best parts of our district, to probably bring in some of these people who may be in other districts that we play. I think that might be a better option than giving them discounted space or time on the Jumbotron. Well, another thing I wanted to talk about was a fifth day virtual school option. That doesn't mean the fifth day is off. The reason I would suggest is not based off of what you would think, is based off of your facilities and maintenance operations. It's about a little bit over 17 million. If you could take off 10% off of each building, that's 1.7 million a year. If you can get 15 or 20%, you kind of get what I'm saying, that's 3.4 million a year. And that'll give you the short term that you need until, you know, the money from the battery, underground battery storage facilities come in. Or and even if we get the, well, I'm pretty sure we're probably gonna get the data center, all that'll come in and you'll have enough time, you know, bridge the gap. If you did do a fifth day virtual option, you would have to start now with instruction and turn that fifth day into a testing day. And I'd probably say once a month, have an eligibility test where these kids who are staying at home and on their computers during the test, if they're passing during that month, then they can stay at home. If not, you can roll them back into the schools. That way, you're not using every building in every classroom on Fridays. You lowered some of those expenses. Another, and it's deeper than that. There's a lot of preparing. You have to do curriculum and instruction. You have to do changing around, because if you made Friday a testing day, and then once a month that extra test. But I do not suggest this for your students who need the support. Your special education students, they should regularly be in school. They love it. And you should also have the option for kids who just love to be around their friends. I wouldn't be surprised if my son chose to go to school on the fifth day, even though I'm suggesting this today. Another thing is, I heard Ms. Cardenas talking about the faculty members, the members on the committees. I would probably suggest y'all make a policy to review all applications. If there are applications submitted for the committees, I would like to, you know, there be an application process if there isn't. That way you can have full clarity and make sure that money isn't really, or corruption isn't going in there. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if you have application process or not, but I think it'd be a good idea just to keep that corruption or abuse out of your problems. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next, we're going to conduct our Finance and Audit Committee workshop, and Dr. Mills is going to help us with that this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Kingman. So I'm going to guide us through this thrilling information. We will start on page 12. Currently, we have an unassigned budget of approximately $50 million. We have an restricted budget of about $5 million. $4 million of that is already committed to capital purchases currently. Moving on to the combined statement of revenues and expenditures. Currently, we have collected about 46% of the revenue, roughly $63 million, and we have spent roughly $57 million, which is roughly 42% of our of the money, which is right in line with our current budget cycle. We're on the 5th month, so 42% is right on track for expenditures. Scrolling down to page 16 is the check register and gross payroll. We're spending roughly $9 million excuse me, a month on payroll. The rest of the $14 million was the additional $5 million, equaling total of $14 million was spent on the check register, which is listed in detail below. I've went through the check register. There were kind of the normal large purchases, energy, water. The only question I had was towards the bottom was the jet electric company. Merrill, Dr. Brandon, do you know, it was $382,000 for the jet electric company. I hadn't seen jet electric company before.
There should be stadium lights around the outside for the additional parking.
Okay.
That was that project.
That's what that, okay, thank you. Those are the only check that was new or unusual to me. Are there any other board members that had any checks they want to question? If not, we can move on down to the investment report on page 37. For the month of January 2026, we had about $1.6 million interest earned. 1.3 million of that was specifically with the bond project, with the money allocated, roughly $400 million allocated for bond projects. So the rest, the other 300,000 was from our other accounts. The interest rates, going down to the next page, the interest rates have gone down, unfortunately, for this year compared to last year. So they were roughly 5 or 4.5 last year. Now they're in the high 3s, 3.7s to 3.9. But we're making a lot more per month because we have all the bond money that we are collecting interest on. Moving on to the tax collection report on page 42, this is for December, not January. We've collected about 44% of the 2025 taxes, which is reasonable. We'll probably get most of the rest, I guess, in January, when most people pay their taxes in December and January, as Mr. Dindal has mentioned. Last year we had collected a little bit more, but we're pretty much in line with what we do annually. Moving on to page 43 is the PO report. It's a pretty short PO report, actually. Fuel, some cameras for security systems. There was an internet filter, was the largest PO report, but there were no other spending that was unusual on my review. Any board members have any questions or other comments about the PO reports? Well, that concludes the Finance and Audit Committee. All this information we listed online in the financial transparency page. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mills. Next, we're going to move forward with some information items. Mr. Danheim's going to give us a bond construction update.
Dr. Kingman, Dr. Moran, and members of the board. KFW was unable to be here this evening, so we don't really have a presentation for you. Thought I might go over a timeline on the Fannin project, just to kind of let you know where we're at. It's been out advertising for a CMAR. The RFPs will be due in March 12th. And then after we've reviewed, scored all that, we should have a recommendation for the board on the 26th of March for a CMAR. And then really, any questions on any of the other projects or Fannin or any of them? If you do, I'll be glad to try to answer them for you.
And you're comfortable with the March 26th timeline?
Yes, sir.
As far as getting that to
as far as
July?
getting the CMAR on board. Yes, sir.
Okay. Other questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Denham.
Okay. Thank you all.
All right, Dr. Gomez, you're back up. And this is academic update, and it's our middle of year benchmarks.
Okay. You also have copies at your seats. I know you have the TVs, but I apologize. I did not send this in Friday fax as I intended. We had a full week of professional learning and then a full instructional planning day today, so again, my apologies. For this evening's middle of the year academic update, we connect everything to our goals. So we're going to be discussing the Superintendent Board Goal 3 specifically for our students meeting expected growth. Okay, so as you move to the first slide there, it's a recap for those listening or watching, as I know we've discussed this multiple times with the board and in district. But M-Class Dibbles is for our earliest readers. So we're talking kindergarten and first grade. And because all of these charts and the data read a little differently, as I point out this first slide, as we're looking at that middle of the year data, those numbers are bolded there for you. So you see as we go across, we really want to progress left to right, with ultimately having less students in the well below and the below areas and having more students at the benchmark level or above the benchmark level. So as reported to you in the fall, when we first tested our kindergarten students in SAISD, we had 56% of those students well below grade level. And we had great conversation about how, as a district, we had students coming in less than the national average. And that's a great lift for our primary teachers and for the district as a whole, because the impact of students coming in well below can last years beyond that grade level. And we know the importance of getting students to read on grade level by third grade. So I just want to recap and set all of that up for you. So you can see as we've retested in January, our kindergarten students have gone to 44%. So you do see that gap closing. Again, we want that number in well below to decrease. Then when we move over to the below benchmark, you see that middle of Y went to 20%. So ultimately, we want that number going down, but just because we went from 17% at BOY to 20% at MOY doesn't mean concern. However, you can't just make an initial glance and say, okay, so you have to dig deeper. If that percentage changed because we were moving students from the well below to the below, that's a positive. We're moving them up. However, as we dig down to individual students, if we had individual students testing at BOY at the at level and we've dropped, that's a problem. So please know whenever we have these checkpoints, we just don't look at numbers, thumbs up, thumbs down. You dig down to the individual students, okay? So then as you move over to the at level, this is where we want to see those percentages going up. So BOY, our kindergarten students, 15% were at level, MOY, 19%. And then lastly, at the above, you see 12% BOY, 17% MOY. Please know I'm not going to read every line to you. I just wanted to set up the first column of data. First grade, as you look down, you can see those percentages, which really in well below stayed pretty much constant. Then you move over to the below, and we went from 19 to 15. Again, we have to ask deeper questions. What happened? Did we just stay stagnant? Are we staying the same? At 21% BOY, 20% MOY, and then the above, 19 to 22%. So I'm going to pause there and see if there are any questions before we take a deeper look by grade level for M-Class, because M-Class is only KN1.
Just to confirm, these are averages for the entire district, right? Not individual campuses?
Correct. This is our district report for all campuses, and then next month we'll take a deeper dive in our campuses, engaging in school improvement like we did previously with BOY data.
Individually?
Yes.
Okay.
Individually by campus.
And Dr. Gomez, you did say that, say like well below the BOY 56 and then 44, but then the 20 in the yellow on below benchmark is because we're moving those that came from well below, they've moved up to.
Well, you have to
that's
look.
why- yeah,
You can't make that initial assumption, because at first glance you think,
Yeah.
oh, that's great.
Yeah.
But you still have to make sure that it's not because we had any, what we refer to in education as droppers, who were above or well above that went backwards. Our commitment is growing every student forward. Okay?
And this data comes from,
class is through Amplify,
okay, so it's not from a MAPS test?
not for K and 1.
Okay. And then my question, beginning of the year to now.
Mhm.
So the now, does that, so at the beginning of the year, of course, it's what they come to school knowing.
Correct.
Right? So the middle of the year, we're moving them from what they learned for a half a year, right?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yes,
just
ma'am.
making sure.
So the middle of the year testing was done in January.
So the test is different with expecting more because they've been taught for a half a year, true?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. And also, it's important to remind everyone, these are based on national. And we commit ourselves, yes, to the requirements of Texas, but we look nationally. Okay? All right. Are we good to move on to the next slide? Everybody okay? All right. So again, I'm not going to go that slow every slide, but I do want to make sure that we have an understanding of the information you have. So this next slide for you is specific to our current kindergarten. So you see the glance, just a different way of looking at that data, where those current kindergartners came in, BOY, by each of the 4 zones of growth, to where they're showing now at MOY. And then we like to hold ourselves to the national average as well. So we are closing those gaps. The question we have to have in our district is, are we closing those gaps fast enough? Because we already come in with a larger deficit. Okay, move on to your next slide for first grade. I'm going to pause a second so you can just see the data presented just for that specific grade level and those 4 zones of growth. So really what I will reiterate when we talk about first grade, things seem first glance pretty stable. That's why it's so important to take a deep dive into individual students, to look to see what intentionality we have beyond Tier 1 instruction and their regular ELAR blocks of 120 minutes, to what are we doing additionally during Tier 2 when we're remediating and accelerating individual students. Okay. So I'm going to change off of class now and go to the next assessment. So next we're going to talk MAP. As a reminder from our previous discussions, this is the first school year for the district to use MAP starting in 2nd grade. Now we've had lengthy conversations about this, specifically in our teacher incentive allotment. So that's why you see 2nd all the way up. However, this first slide is specific to math. So I know in education, we love to have all of these acronyms, so let me provide some reminders. Because as you look across here, you see the grade level, you see the fall of this school year RIT score as compared to the winter, and then you see where it says GL, that stands for grade level gains. A RIT score tells us the level of academic difficulty a student is ready for, okay? So that's really important as a teacher. You can think about, okay, what are the students ready to learn? I use the comparison of, you can think about height. Okay, so height is measured in inches, and that gives us a very precise number. As educators, we don't have a lot of precise information when you're talking about planning instruction. After this report, I get to talk to you about the taper report from data that's what we call rear view data. We have that data, it's old, those students are in different grade levels. We cannot change anything instructionally for those individual students. Whereas when we have a RIT score, we have precise data to tell us where students are ready to learn on the skills themselves. It's because it's based on an equal interval scale. And these scales are consistent across grade level, so we can track growth over time. And again, we're talking about national norms. Okay? So as you look across, you can see for math in the various grade levels, the grade level gains. Also, I just think it's important to remind the board and those listening, we have had much work done on curriculum alignment in the district. For our K-2 teachers, this was the first year for them to have the aligned district resource. They first started with reading. This is year 1 of the aligned math resource. Where 3 through 5 and Algebra 1 began with that resource last year. It's also the first year for 6 through 8. You see Algebra 1 broken down by grade level. That's because students are not required to take Algebra 1 as 8th graders. So depending on their mathematical course sequence, they either can take it as 8th graders or as 9th graders. Any question about the growth over time broken down by math?
Is the 9th grade algebra, is that the high school kids grouped together that are taking honors algebra and regular?
No. Well, it's any student coded for as a 9th grader taking Algebra 1.
Okay.
Okay? So even an honor student, if they're a 9th grader,
Is it
yes.
there? Okay.
Mm-hmm. This next chart simply shows you what we've talked about on expected growth. So once we give the MAP assessment, at the beginning of the year, it gives a projection on how much growth the individual student should have over the course of the year. So it's just a different way of seeing this. We've talked about these bar graphs before in comparison to how are the grade levels themselves meeting those projected growth norms. Now, also in the fall, I shared with you that NWEA, the company that uses MAP, they re-normed. It had not been done since COVID. So these are new norms that NWEA set forth. Now, please know there are pockets where we are super happy of the expected growth, but we don't just look at this first glance and say, okay, look, we have all this forward progress, we're done. You take a much deeper dive. It feels as though I have to come up here consistently and talk about 7th grade. Pam, I promise it's not just anything about 7th grade, but as a district, we look at 7th grade very closely, and that's because of our historical data. Historically, in 7th grade, we've been below, when we're talking state assessment, we've been below the state average. So those are things that we look for. So proud of everyone's hard work, but we also fully acknowledge we have further work to do. You will see after 8th grade there on that expected growth, you don't see anything for those high school grade levels. And that's because of the course sequence beyond 8th grade math. So if you go to your next slide, then we're going to talk Algebra 1. So notice on these bar charts, you don't have the symbol to compare, and that's because there is no other test. It's only the algebra test. You don't have another test to compare it to over time, like from 2nd grade to 3rd grade and so forth. Then we pointed out the algebra retesters. While we want every student to be successful their first end of course assessment, some students have to continue to challenge the test. We don't stop beyond that first test administration and not worry about how the student's progressing. We're committed to seeing every time. But we did want to show you the reason why on Algebra 1 you have grades beyond 9th grade is because we still have students that are working to successfully complete that Algebra 1 in the course. Okay, I'll just give y'all just a second there. I will tell you, prior to last year, we did not have as comprehensive data for those retesters, and so that was a goal that we were able to break that down. Okay, I'm just trying to make eye contact and make sure I'm not going too fast or too slow. So I'm going to show you another slide to look at this data in another way that we review from the district. You quite frequently hear us talking about our commitment to growth, and it is our commitment that every student meets or exceeds their projected growth, because that's based on the individual child. You can set aside feelings about state assessment and being held to what the state assessment sets. We know that for some children, school comes very easily. For other students, it is more difficult. But we can't argue the fact that we owe every child, wherever they come in, the experience of growing forward. And so that's why we talk in terms of meeting or exceeding their individual projected growth. So I'll give you just a second to go down and see our fall to winter comparison on the growth. Any questions about this slide?
I don't have a question specifically about this slide, but I'm just a quick question. The students that are identified outside of this, are they the ones that you're sort of targeting interventions towards? Like if you notice a student is not meeting or exceeding their growth, that's when you start doing interventional stuff?
Yes. And so we typically refer to the word interventions, and we think of interventions because it's been stated this way for many, many years, as interventions means remediation. But you can have high achievers that are low performers. And so we have to make sure they continue to be engaged in rigorous curriculum so they don't fall behind. So can't think of it always as they just need extra help. They also need to be challenged at their academic instructional level. So that's the case of you need acceleration, so that even those high achievers, maybe they're low performers, we need them to be high achievers, high performers. Okay. All right, we good to move on? Question?
I just have a comment, I guess, or maybe a question. I'm always fascinated by the 8th grade algebra and how, it's 91%. And I know we've talked before about that's because the 8th grade algebra students are really kind of the higher achievers that are taking algebra a year earlier. And I guess I was wondering, is there a breakdown of, in the other, I know there's like pre-AP in middle school, or honors classes in middle school, yeah. So is there a breakdown of where the honors students are compared to the regular students and the percentages of growth that they see?
There's not in these charts, but that's data that we look at. So for our 8th grade Algebra 1 students, they are in advanced mathematics. And so being in that course pathway, math tends to be easier for them, okay? However, you can have some strong math students whose parents choose not to put them in Algebra 1 as 8th graders, and that too is totally okay. Now, if we know they are high achievers in math, then our commitment in 8th grade math is that those students are meeting and exceeding their growth on MAP, but also your master level students when we talk STAR. Because again, we want to challenge them academically. Okay, now we'll move on to reading. So it's the same setup. First, the data is presented to you from the fall writ to the winter writ, and you can see across by grade level, those grade level gains. The one thing I want to remind the board, those watching, those listening, is that this is reading only data. There is no writing data reported here. So when we talk MAP as one measure for students meeting or exceeding growth, we have state accountability that's completely different, and you have reading and writing whenever we talk any STAR scores for RLA. Okay? Any questions about this first slide for reading?
I have a question. I'm sorry. So I know we talk about the new norms, and that, so obviously, it means that there's a new baseline after COVID. And you may be getting to this, so I apologize, but I would assume that gains are still gains, even if the norms are different. Our gains should still be a true number. I mean, whether it's from 120 to 130 or
yes.
Okay. Are our gains where you have a slide where we're looking at our gains and how that compares to years previous, even without the norms, with the norms changing?
For this presentation, I just have for this, but that is information we look at. So what you're exactly right. The norms are still norms. They re-normed to have a truer picture of how students across the nation and the grade levels are performing. So it's still a growth. So basically, a fourth grade student is receiving more items on a fourth grade grade level, so that you know across the board. Okay? All right, then we move to the next slide for expected growth. Same comparison, you can see the observed growth and in relation to the projected growth. Then your retesters, those are pulled out for you, just like Algebra 1.
For the retesters, let's say I'm in 11th grade and I still need to pass the English 1 test. Do they go to, it's not credit recovery because they don't need their credit, but where are they going to get this continuation of help?
So there's all different ways that looks. That is a true challenge for a high school teacher and for high school administrators because they haven't successfully completed that test, but they're also being taught new grade level material. So that's very individualized. You know, we talk in terms of what people are accustomed to hearing, even in summer programming. In summer programming, we separate out the two. So we have in June, summer programming assistance specific to retest preparation in the month of June. But then in the month of July, we have assistance specific to credit recovery. So there are multiple pathways there. Now, in terms, it looks different, again, across the board, but in terms of programmatic support and support beyond the classroom, because we know we're limited to instructional minutes and hours in a day, that is one thing. You've heard us talk about IXL. That is one way where students get support not only in school, but they can access that out of school. Okay. All right, I'm going to move forward. Then the next slide, you simply see the same by grade level, just showing you, though, from fall to winter on the students meeting or exceeding their projected growth. I just really want to highlight again, this is all reading. Then I'll go ahead and move forward to connecting how we use this data for instruction, because yes, we hold ourselves to the national norms, but we know that in Texas, we're held to the STAR assessment. So this is where you see the STAR proficiencies come into play. The number one thing we've done to shift in the district is just looking at approaches. Approaches in terms of STAR, well, okay, it counts, but that is not our expectation. We want students at meets and masters. The difference here is where you do as a teacher have students of all different academic levels in your classroom. If a student came in well below, to get that student to meets or masters is a much heavier lift than the student that came in on grade level. And then you start talking achievement versus growth. But we do, when we give our MAP assessment, get the projections, okay, based on this data, how many did not meet and would not get growth credit on STAR, how many approached. So they're making progress, but they're not completely there. We're not getting full points for their growth. And then how many meet or masters. And again, in this, the colors are a little different than those first slides where they were black and bolded, but you're looking at those bolded rows. So that takes you through 5th reading. I'm going to just keep moving forward until if you guys stop me. And then you can see math as well. And then,
I'm sorry, Farrah, I have another question.
No, it's fine. I don't want awkward silence, but I don't want to go too fast.
I've been out a few years, so I know that now in, tell me if I'm wrong, 6th and 7th grade, if you're in accelerated math, you take, during 6th grade, you're going to take the 7th grade STAR. Is that right?
6th grade, you're going to complete all of 6th grade, and you're going to start on 7th grade.
Right, I'm talking about the STAR test.
Right, so you don't have all of the 7th grade material in accelerated math in 6th grade.
So they'll still take the STAR test.
Mm-hmm.
In 7th
and then
grade,
7th grade, you finish all of the 7th grade and you start on 8th. So this is where it depends on a district and what course ID you coded that as, to whether or not those students take 7th grade or 8th grade.
Okay.
Okay?
Right.
And then in 8th grade, then, of course, typically they're moving on. Yes. So you don't have all of your high achievers over that middle school grade span counting in each grade span in terms of STAR.
Right. So a 7th grade honors student would take a 7th grade STAR test.
8th grade for us.
The 8th grade. Okay. So they're going to take, okay. Is that true also in ELAR?
No.
Okay.
No.
So to wrap your brain around it, really, 6th and 7th, our 6th and 7th and 8th grade are, I think a better word instead of honors is accelerated.
Correct.
They're just pushing through, and they're finishing 8th grade at the end of 7th. Whereas our ELAR, it's the same curriculum but raised.
Correct.
Okay.
And then lastly, we close up with the EOCs. And those are broken down for you by 8th grade again and 9th grade for Algebra 1. Okay, so to follow up to what I stated in the beginning, for the next update, then we'll take the deeper dive in our campuses working specifically in school improvement. I know it's a lot of data. If there's particular questions that you want in advance of the next report, if you will let Dr. Moran know, I'll be sure to work those in. Okay?
Dr. Gomez, I want to thank you. Obviously, this is a ton of data, and it's also a ton of work by our teachers at the level looking, as you said, looking at every particular kid to make sure that we don't have kids slipping, and that even though our global data may look really, this looks really reassuring compared to previous years. But on the same hand, I know it takes a lot of work to look at each individual kid, and I just want to commend our teachers and our principals on all the campuses for doing that, because it takes a lot from you to get all this together as well, but it really takes a lot from them to make the magic happen on those campuses. So
absolutely,
thank you.
They're the boots on the ground. So the thanks goes to, as you said, those teachers, those principal supervisors, the CNI team members. It's truly a team effort on wrapping around and providing the supports needed for our students. So.
Just a quick question, going back to our goal number 3, do you just, obviously we don't know the answer to this, but do you feel like we're on a pace to meet that goal this year?
I feel that we are trending to meet that goal. And full transparency to give you, though, that for English 1 and English 2, because, yes, in terms of MAP, which is reading only, we can track that. But how that correlates then to STAR, where that writing component also comes into play, that's more difficult for me to tell you if we will meet that because of that writing component. However, we don't just say, oh, we're just hoping, we're just taking hope, because hope is not a strategy. We are being very intentional with our time and our supports. So in the month of March, district-wide, we are focusing on supports for the ECR that is a part of the STAR assessment, and supporting our teachers in what we're calling 4 short professional learning series. Because when you think about all the things our teachers have had to learn new, from assist change to curriculum resources, that's a heavy lift, and the human capacity for change is real. So we are trying to chunk those things. Yes, we know all the things that need to be done, but you can't do all of the things at one time. So in the month of March, we will have 4 one-hour professional learning sessions to support teachers who want to learn more about getting that perfect 10, is what we call it in STAR testing world. Two raters giving you the 5 points. So we'll be addressing that.
Thank you, Dr. Gomez.
Thank you, Dr. Gomez. You get to stay up there, and you're going to give us our Texas Academic Performance Report public hearing.
Okay, so this feels very behind the time to take a deep dive with all of you on current data where we can make instructional changes, to talk to you about data that is old and not forward-facing. However, annually, the state in the month of December releases a district's official Texas Academic Performance Report, and districts have 90 days to hold a public hearing to discuss those reports. So in compliance with the statute and the law, SAISD has the latest TAPER report on our SAISD website. You can look underneath the accountability tab, and you can see that information. So as Ms. Singleton's pulling up here, just our general website, for anyone who wanted to get this information in that search field, you would simply, there's several ways you could get it, but you could just type in TAPER. She didn't know she was going to have a test. So when you go there, then what should pull up is accountability, and when you click on that link, you see all of this information. I know that you all have had this information for quite some time because it's this big, thick report for the district and then each individual campus. So you can scroll down on the web page. On the right-hand side, you see the links, you see the glossary provided there. For the public hearing, I'm not going to go through every area to the same degree that I just went over middle of the year data, but I do want to highlight the specific areas in compliance with our public hearing. So for the 24-25 school year, as you all are aware, San Angelo ISD had an accountability rating of a C. We were accredited, and our special education determination status was meets requirement. Through TAPER, there are 8 sections by TEA for every district and campus using PEIMS and student assessment data. That's why the business side of the house has to talk with the curriculum side of the house, because everything that's put in that computer for PEIMS impacts student accountability and data. I just like to give my colleague, Dr. Brandon, a little nudge on that, because sometimes he'll think we're talking teaching and learning. We're an entire team together, and we can't do the job without each and every team member, and we're thankful that we have the team. Oh, each bullet's going to take, it's not progressing. I don't know why, if it froze. Okay, so for the 8 sections there that are included, In the TAPER report, which you all have the full report, is student information. So the TAPER breaks down your student information, including enrollment by grade level, by ethnicity, students with disabilities, and other student information, such as graduation information, retention rates, and class size information. There's also an area under staff information. So for staff information, it provides total staff, staff by classification, teachers by ethnicity and gender, teachers by the highest degree held and their years of experience, experience of campus leadership, staff salary, and teacher turnover rate information. I just think it's important to have that reminder because sometimes things are said generally like, well, this district has X. Well, it's always important to compare the district to the region and to the state. And that's what the TAPER report provides stakeholders. And then program information, you have student enrollment by program and teachers by program. It's stuck again. Okay, maybe I just wanted to click too fast. So I'm going to just talk about some key highlights from our data, since again, this is old data. So key highlights for the district for 24-25. When you're talking STAR, the STAR approaches level performance remains stable across most grades. Stable is not good enough for our commitment to excellence in SAISD. We've worked with all campus leaders that meets is our minimum level of expectation in SAISD. We are shooting for meets and nowhere lower. We know that you are granted points if you're at approaches, but our expectation starts at meets. Meets and masters, in terms of the 24-25 school year, still shows mixed results. So again, that's why we raise the bar to the higher level so that you're pulling all students along. We talk a lot in this district about transfers, enrollment, how when we have a student in our system that stays through our system, how they perform versus students that are very mobile, change campuses quite frequently, or come in mid-year or mid-schooling in their career. So for example, when we have students in SAISD, they start, we'll just say kindergarten, not even pre-K, start kindergarten, and they remain with the district through graduation as compared to a student who moves in sixth grade or who moves in their ninth grade year. Those students that are continuously enrolled show high levels of success. The reason we had to really have such an effort on the alignment in our curriculum resources is we have much mobility among our campuses. And so we know internally students change campuses. When they change campuses, we cannot lose instructional time because this campus is using a different resource, and then we inadvertently create gaps for our students. Our data does show us in the TAPER report that those continuously enrolled students outperform the non-continuously enrolled students by 10 to 20 points. And then, as we've been saying, as you know, as our leaders know, the subpopulations of special education and English learners are what we refer to as big rocks. Our data shows we need these students to be performing higher than they are. So we have to ask questions about what services and what supports are these students receiving. Then in specific grade level highlights, I know I've shared this with you before, but I want to say it publicly. Grade 3, for example, in 24-25 had 75% approaching on the reading STAR assessment, 46% meets, and 12% masters. Grade 3 math had 67% approaching, 40% meets, and 12% masters. Now our expectation is the approaches is getting there, but we've got to bump up meets. I know I sound like a broken record, but we have to say it over and over and over to change that culture of expectation. Grade 5 science, we can pull it out specifically, 55% approaches, 22% meets. Now how do we move? How do we shift that over? Get more meets, more masters. Middle school math, in the meets range, we have anywhere from 29% to 37%. English 1 EOC, 59% approaches, 38% meets, and 9% masters. So the overall takeaway on those highlights, again, approaches are higher levels. We just need to shift that to more in meets and masters. If you want to talk individual grade levels, you can look specifically at grade 4 reading and math gains. And then special education. You've heard us talk a lot in special education and working with the Texas Education Agency. That compliance met. We did not have any special report that needed to be submitted for special education. So that is a great win because we do serve a large number in this community. Areas for improvement. I feel like a broken record here, but I'll reiterate. We need to increase the meets and masters performance. We need to strengthen our middle school math instruction. They just now have an aligned resource. So we're super excited for the first time to have an aligned resource in mathematics, K through Algebra 1. That doesn't fix overnight because when you have multiple resources being used, then you can have gaps along the way. We are excited to see those students trickle through with that aligned resource. Again, I don't want to be a broken record, but I want to reiterate, we know and we're committed that we need to improve the outcomes for special education and English learners. And we really have to have a way to address those mobility-related performance gaps, especially those gaps we can work on internally. When a student moves in from out of district, out of state, we can't control that. But we have internal systems and processes that could be controlled where we're being more consistent and not creating those performance gaps. In terms of our district action steps, what we did before this official TAPER report coming out and we're committing to following through is the implementation of those high quality instructional materials. Not just having the materials, having anything doesn't mean you have a real solution. You have to have the materials and then check for fidelity. Are we really using the materials, and are we using the materials as they were designed to be used? Tier 2, district-wide, is our major area of focus, really looking down to each individual student and making sure if they do have gaps, what are we doing beyond the regular instruction to assist in those areas? We have a strong commitment for strengthening our professional learning communities and I really want to commend our principal supervisors, our campus principals, our campus assistant principals, and our instructional coaches that you don't telling a teacher doesn't change practice. You have to coach to grow. But most importantly, not everyone is receptive to coaching, so we lift up the growth mindset for every one of us. All of us have room to improve. So that culture of coaching and the work that the staff has done is a major action step that we can't let up on. And then lastly, providing that targeted professional learning for special education and emergent bilingual instructional strategies. Right now, we are deeply engaged in our work around ESL certification. While everything's not about a certification, one thing a certification does ensure is that teachers know the strategies and the requirements for serving those students most effectively in those subpopulations. So I tried to give the quickest recap I could for old data, but I'm happy to take any questions. Now, if you ask me a specific question about one of the pages in here, I'm going to use my cheat sheet to go back because there's thousands of data points in this report.
Any questions for Dr. Gomez? All right. Thank you, Dr. Gomez. All right. We are going to move forward with our agenda. Next on our agenda are consent items A through D. A is consider donations. And for the minutes, B is consider bid 25-015, maintenance and transportation and miscellaneous supplies, which were discussed last meeting. Next was bid 25-018, curriculum and instruction materials, which we discussed at the pre-agenda, and the consider purchase of school buses, which we talked about at our pre-agenda meeting. Does anyone have any questions, comments, anything need to be pulled? Do I have a motion to approve consent items A through D?
Make a motion to approve consent items A through D.
I have a motion from Mr. Gallegos. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Duncan got it first. She just didn't turn on her mic, but she's going to in the future. So, motion from Mr. Gallegos and a second from Mrs. Duncan. Any further board questions or comments? Just as a reminder, if everyone will keep their hand up till I look at you afterwards. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes 6-0. All right. Next, we have our action items. First on that is our bills, accounts, and financial statements. Dr. Mills did an admirable job at that this evening. Does anyone have any questions or comments regarding our bills, accounts, and financial statements? Do I have a motion to approve our bills, accounts, and financial statements?
I'll make a motion to approve bills, accounts, and financial statements for January 2026.
Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion from Dr. Mills and a second from Mr. Gallegos. Any further board comments or questions? All in favor say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Again, say the same. Motion passes 6-0. All right. Next, we have bid 26-003. This is McGill Phase 2 abatement. Mr. Henry's going to talk to us about it. We got it in our Friday facts as well.
Thank you all for having me here tonight. Tonight I bring forth bid 26-003 McGill Phase 2 abatement. The McGill Elementary Addition Phase 2 was one of the proposed projects in the 2025 bond. With the passage of the district began working on plans and specifications for the addition. Prior to the demo and construction beginning, buildings B, D, and E will need abatement to be completed. With the assistance of King's Consulting, specifications and drawings were produced to abate these buildings. Bids were received from 4 companies capable of producing this type of work. These bids were reviewed and scored, and the scoring criteria applied. American Abatement LLC not only had the lowest price, but also received the highest score. The administration recommends American Abatement LLC for the McGill Abatement Phase 2. Total cost $107,193. This includes a $20,000 contingency. Do you have any questions?
Any questions? Sorry. Any questions for Mr. Henry?
How many bid on it, did you say?
4.
Was it 4? Okay.
Have you worked with them before?
We have not worked with them before. We did discuss it with our consultant, and they are a reputable company in San Antonio that do the job all the time.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Henry? Do I have a motion? I'll make a motion that we approve American Abatement LLC for the McGill Abatement Phase 2 for a total cost of $107,193, including a $20,000 contingency. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
So a motion from myself and a second from Dr. Mills. Any further board questions or comments? All in favor say aye. And raise your hand. Thank you. 6-0. Just so everyone knows, the hand raising thing is the state legislation, not me. Okay. So, next, Dr. Brandon, consider easement agreement.
Dr. Kingman, Dr. Brim, Dr. Moran, Board of Trustees. As part of the McGill Phase 2 construction, a sewer line needs to be replaced, rerouted on district property. Upon the request for permit, the city discovered that there was not a prior easement on the property, 202 Mill Spa, and so requested that the district grant to itself this easement across the property, and the main purpose being the easement will ensure future access to the property provided the district ever sold or convey the property to another entity. So you have both the exhibits, A, B, and C. Our legal counsel, Walsh Gallegos, was in contact with the city of San Angelo in preparing the documents. So we feel like that they are proper and in place, and administration would recommend approving the resolution this evening for granting the easement for both 201 and 202 Mill Spa.
Any board questions or comments? I know we talked about this at pre-agenda. All right. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the sewer line easement between district-owned parcels as property number 1-201 Millspaw Street, property number 2-202 Millspaw Street, both in San Angelo, Texas, 76901, as described by administration, and further authorize the superintendent or deputy superintendent to execute all necessary documents for the easement.
All right, I have a motion from Ms. Mizell Flint. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second from Mr. Gallegos. Any further board comments or questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you. 6-0. All right, next, Dr. Brandon. Resolution addressing employee pay during emergency closure.
On January 26th and 27th, icy road conditions made it unsafe for staff, students, and buses to navigate local roads. Additionally, campus parking lots, sidewalks, and school entrances remain frozen at that time. If the board chooses to pay employees during a school closure, it must adopt a resolution or similar action at an open meeting to comply with the Open Meeting Act. The resolution must address public purpose, which employees continue to receive wages, and the duration of pay. You see attached the resolution where employees would be able to be paid during the school closure for the 2 days, and any employees that were called out to navigate broken pipes, starting buses, everything that it takes to be prepared for students to be back the next day that we can, those would be paid at time and a half. So the approval of the resolution by the Board of Trustees would allow that to happen for those 2 days.
So just as a reminder, this is something we have to do each and every time we close the district for weather or some other event, and that this doesn't mean that this is not a blanket thing for any future closures. It's just for this specific event. All right, any other questions or comments? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the administration's recommendation of the resolution as presented for addressing employee pay during emergency closures.
And do I have a second? And a second from Mrs. Duncan. All right, so a motion from Mr. Gallegos and a second from Mrs. Duncan. Any further board comments or questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Raise your hand. 6-0. Motion passes. Thank you. I'll just start saying raise your hand. I don't even, whatever. All right. Next, consider resolution approving sale of city property. And Dr. Brandon, you're up again.
So this evening we have 4 properties submitted by the City of San Angelo to each taxing entity, San Angelo ISD being one of those. If no bids are received at auction, then the City of San Angelo accepts bids, offers on the property for sale. And so the city has put together, you can see in the exhibit, each one of the properties. You see the adjudge value and then the amount of offer for each one. And then they have broken that down by priority of allocations. The good thing for the school district is the taxes are at the top of the priority list. So each one of those properties has an offer higher than normal that you would find. I mean, we do this a couple of times a year, it feels like, so it's something that we do quite often over time. And the nice thing is it helps put these properties back on the tax roll. So that benefits the city, the county, the school district, all in favor of putting properties back so that they can be in use and serving a public purpose. So with that this evening, you have, let me get back there, the resolution authorizing the tax resale. It lists the identification of each property and approval by the Board of Trustees for each taxing entity, then puts that back for the city to accept those offers and pay the taxes.
Earl, this is from the city of San Angelo. Because
Yes.
we also receive these from the county as well, right? From the county appraisal district, or is this through the county appraisal district as well?
So my understanding is they would all go through kind of like the sheriff's auction, and the city, with it being in the city limits, then the city of San Angelo would offer those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other questions? All right, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the administration's recommendation, the resolution authorizing the tax resale of 506 North Browning, 638 West Avenue X, 705 East 17th, and 1410 Parker, San Angelo, Texas, by the city of San Angelo as presented.
So I have a motion from Mr. Gallegos. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And a second from Dr. Mills. Any further board comments or questions? All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Thank you. Motion passes 6-0. All right, Dr. Lemaster, if we have consider approval to request sanctions on an educator's certificate for abandonment of contract.
Good evening, Dr. Kingman, Dr. Moran, and trustees. Tonight I am bringing forward an item for board consideration regarding an educator resignation and potential contract abandonment, and whether the district should submit a written complaint to the State Board for Educator Certification, or SBEC, for possible sanctions. Board policy provides that educators may resign without penalty at the end of the school year if they submit a written resignation by the required deadline. However, resignation at any other time requires board or designee consent. In this case, the district did not consent to the resignation. After review, administration is recommending the board make a finding that good cause did not exist and authorize the submission of a written complaint to SBEC. It's important to note that SBEC makes the final determination and may consider mitigating factors as part of the review.
So a lot of obviously the facts of this situation were sent to us in our board book for our review. Any questions or comments for Dr. Lemaster about the outline she created and their recommendation? All right. Do I have a motion regarding this recommendation? All right, guys, wake up. I'll make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve in accordance with board policy and applicable law based on the facts presented. Administration recommends that the board determine the good cause did not exist for the untimely resignation and abandonment of contract by, can we say the name?
I think we have to say the name, don't we?
Eric Andrade, and authorize the superintendent to submit a written request to the TEA, Texas Education Agency State Board for Educator Certification, seeking sanctions in accordance with the applicable law.
All right, I have a motion from Mr. Gallegos. Do I have a second? I'll take the second since I was going to make the motion. Any further board comments or questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. That's 4, 5. All against, say the same. So it's 5-1. Next, we have consider Senate Bill 11, prayer and reading religious text, and Dr. Moran's going to start that off for us, I guess.
All right, we've had a good conversation about this last week. I think the board's received enough information to be educated on it. I believe January the 9th, you received in Friday Facts a pretty good overview, and then last week we spent time talking about it. And you've heard from the community both ways, in support and in opposition of this. I think the simplicity is if the board were to adopt then what that would mean for us logistically is we would need to send consent forms to all of our parents. If the parent consents, we would need to track those forms. We would need to establish a place and a time before the school day, most likely. Could be after the day, but most likely before the day. So it's not part of the instructional day, and we would need to assign an adult the monitoring assignment to at least know who has the consent forms approved by the parent so that they're allowed in that area to pray and read the Bible or other religious texts. Students that don't have the consent form would not be allowed in that area. That's if the board were to approve that. If the board does not approve this resolution, then essentially what it means is we continue doing what we've always done. And I'm not trying to steer you one way or the other, but we already have the right. Students have the right. We have clubs and organizations. So that's really, those are both sides of the coin. There's been a lot of schools that have not adopted this for that very reason. Right or wrong, that's just the way it was written. It creates a burden on the school. If you do adopt it, if you don't adopt it, it doesn't hurt us.
All right. Does anyone have any comments or questions regarding this? I know we talked about it last week, and as we discussed last week, there are a lot of First Amendment rights that are given to people to protect these times, and there are a lot of things we're doing on our campuses already. And then there's the concern regarding unforeseen consequences, unpredicted consequences of something new and doing that. But with that, open it up to anyone else's comments or questions or a motion, if there's a motion.
I have a comment. I've been watching this happen across the state with boards voting on Senate Bill 11, and a lot of communities are happy or unhappy based on the vote. There's a strong feeling on both sides, and I just want to say that regardless of how our board votes, that prayer is, if you vote against this resolution, prayer, it does not mean that the person is against prayer. It just means that there's a strong belief that prayer should happen in a home and in the house of worship and wherever the congregation decides to pray or the person decides to pray. And I just don't want anybody in our community, if people do vote against, I don't want anybody in our community to think that anybody on this board is against prayer or the right to pray.
Any other comments or questions?
My only comment as a teacher that was in the classroom for 30 years is that I have complete faith in our educators, administrators, everyone out there, that whatever a child or a teacher wants during the day, if they want to pray or if they want to read, I have complete faith that our people out there are never going to tell a child no. So I will vote what I think is best for all kids and what's best for our administration that's leading our children out there. I could go on about this Senate bill for a long time, but no one wants to hear that. But if you do, I'm willing to meet with anyone. But there's a lot to be said about this, and I'm just going to walk in faith and trust our educators.
All right. Do any other comments? Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Okay.
I move that the Board of Trustees reject the statutory resolution stating that the San Angelo Independent School District, so we're rejecting the policy requiring every campus of San Angelo ISD to provide a period of prayer and reading of the Bible or other religious text as provided by Section 25.0823 of the Education Code.
Second.
So I have a motion from Mrs. Mizell Flint to reject and a second from Mr. Gallegos. Any further board comments or questions? Okay, so just to make sure this is clear, all in favor of a rejection, say aye. Aye. Motion passes 6-0. All right. Next is consider approval of superintendent's contract, and that's on me. So each year at this time, we have the opportunity to either extend or amend Dr. Moran's contract. This year, what is being presented is to extend the term of his contract by 1 year with no other changes in maintaining a 3-year contract. So I'll make a motion that we approve that. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further board comments or questions? All in favor say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
All against say the same. Motion passes 6-0. All right, we do need to go into executive session tonight. It will be under Personnel Matters 551.074. And after that, we'll be back. All right, we are back from executive session. We took no votes. There was no action taken. Getting to my announcements. Our finance and pre-agenda workshop is going to be March 9th next month, and our regular board meeting will be March 26th. And with that, we are adjourned.